morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Thursday, August 25th, 2016. If you want to follow us on Twitter, please go to CATEX TV. Well, last night in Jackson, Mississippi, at a Donald Trump rally, none other than Nigel Farage popped up. Mr. Farage was the leader of the ultranationalist pro-Leave campaign in the United Kingdom, and after the vote was successful for the Leave forces, Mr. Farage promptly resigned his position. He stood in front of Mr. Trump's speech saying that Mr. Trump, in fact, embodied all of the ideals that the British people followed when they voted to leave the EU, and he would not vote for Hillary Clinton if you paid him. Mr. Trump was enthusiastic at having Mr. Farage present. It's doubtful whether any of the people in the audience in Jackson, Mississippi actually knew who Mr. Farage was. Civil protection officials in Italy are now revising the death toll from the earthquake that struck Umbria yesterday to about 241 people. The vast majority of the victims, about 195 of them, are from the town of Amatrice in the Lazio region. Rescue crews are still looking for survivors. There's a possibility that there are survivors there. This is after a 6.2 earthquake and a 4.8 aftershock. The earthquake leveled the area near Norcia, about 105 miles northwest of Rome. The Red Cross is urging Italians in the area to turn off their Wi-Fi passwords so rescuers can access local networks and Wi-Fi networks and try to coordinate aid in a more expeditious manner. Meanwhile, the insured losses from the earthquake are expected to be relatively low. Impact forecasting is pointing to a 2009 earthquake in the same region, which caused economic losses of about $3 billion, but earthquake losses of only about $560 million. RMS is saying that it's going to take days to produce a full picture, but it's clear that there was little higher value property in the towns and villages affected by the strongest shaking. According to RMS, this will limit insurance losses as residential properties are generally uninsured for earthquakes. Hurricane Gaston, which was the storm that everybody's been monitoring, is still a hurricane, but not for long. It's expected to weaken into a tropical storm and actually make a turn out to the northeast and head out to the Atlantic Ocean. So there's a sigh of relief with that. However, there's great concern over another tropical system that's forming right now. There's a 60% chance that this system is going to develop into a tropical depression, which then means it will be eligible to receive a name. It will be named Hermine, Hermine. It'll be the 8th named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. The storm then is expected to take a track which will hit Florida. It's expected to hit Florida as a hurricane, cross the state, push out into the Gulf of Mexico with the potential for landfall somewhere on the Gulf Coast, possibly as a strong hurricane. These are all simulations, nobody's sure yet. The storm is still about 1,000 miles southeast of Miami. However, if it does hit in the Gulf, that's dreadful news for the area, for example, in Louisiana, which is already saturated with rain, where flood warnings still remain in effect for several rivers and where 13 people just died in historic flooding. If the hurricane does strike Florida, it will be the first one to strike Florida since Wilma in October of 2005. So everybody has their eyes on this. The European Commission is expected to levy a tax judgment against Apple in the next few months that J.P. Morgan estimates could be as much as $19 billion US. The Commission is accusing Apple of striking a sweetheart tax deal with Ireland, in which the iPhone maker would move its profits to wholly owned Irish subsidiaries to reduce its corporate taxes. The U.S. Treasury vigorously responded yesterday, saying that the Brussels-based investigation of Apple is, quote, supranational, and accused the European Commission of executing a power grab and unfairly targeting American companies. Tax is one of the most touchy issues for Apple. Tim Cook has appeared in front of the U.S. Senate, testifying that the company does have billions of dollars offshore that he would love to bring back to the United States if tax rates were acceptable. A few years ago, there was no mention of cyber insurance. Well, that's been changed now. Cyber insurance totals now reach about $1 billion in direct written premiums. This is according to Fitch Ratings. American International Group has about 22% of the market. Chubb is behind it at 12%, and XL Group has 11%. The industry still estimates that the cyber insurance business could increase to $20 billion in premium by the year 2020. Severe storms battered the Great Plains yesterday, and even in the northern Great Plains in Indiana, where as many as 8 tornadoes touched down. One tornado was an EF3 with 165 mile-per-hour winds, knocked out about 3,400 people's power in Indianapolis, and it flattened a Starbucks store in Kokomo, Indiana. Fortunately, nobody was killed. Insurance Bureau of Canada reports that the severe storm that swept through southern Alberta and Saskatchewan in the third week of July produced about $65 million in insured damages. Also, claims from a hailstorm in Colorado Springs in the U.S. in July have now exceeded $350 million, making it the fourth most costly storm in the history of the state. Yesterday in Havana, Cuba, an event took place that was broadcast live to Colombia. The Colombian government and the leadership of the FARC rebels, who has been having a 52-year fight that have killed 220,000 Colombian citizens in that time, apparently agreed to a peace treaty. It was brokered by the Cubans in Havana, where secret talks have been going on for about 4 years. The Colombian president, Manuel Santos, called the deal the beginning of the end to the suffering, pain, and tragedy of the war. It now moves on from Havana back to Bogota to determine whether the terms agreed to in Havana will be acceptable to the Colombian people, as is ratified by the government. President Obama phoned his Colombian counterpart to congratulate him on the deal. That's sort of big news, actually. That is the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.